All right, today we are diving into a story that sounds almost like a riddle. It's this incredible metabolic paradox, kind of like a David and Goliath situation where the secret weapon to fight a really harmful sugar turns out to be, well, another sugar. Yep, you heard that right. Let's get into it.
I know, it sounds totally backwards, right? I mean, we're told all the time to cut back on sugar. So what if I told you the key to protecting your liver from one of the absolute worst sugars out there was actually hidden inside a different kind of sugar, one that you find in common everyday plants? It's this wild, sweet paradox, and we are going to unpack it right now. Okay, so to really get a grip on our hero, we've got to meet the villain of the story first. And in our modern diets, that villain is, you guessed it, high fructose corn syrup.
So, high fructose corn syrup is a huge driver of something called MASLD, which is basically fatty liver disease. And here's the really crucial part. You don't have to be overweight to be at risk. This lean MASLD is a super serious concern, mostly because it can fly under the radar for years until some real damage has been done.
So, what makes fructose so uniquely bad for us? Well, it all comes down to how our body handles it. See, when we eat glucose, the other simple sugar, our body has all these checks and balances, these little safety gates, to control how it's used for energy. It's a really smart, regulated system. But fructose? The breakdown of fructose, called fructolysis, it's like a superhighway with no speed limit and absolutely no off-ramps. It just blows past all of those safety checks.
Let's just walk through exactly what happens. Okay, so you grab a soda or some processed snack, right? The fructose in it just zips right past all the body's normal, hey, slow down signals. It makes a direct beeline for your liver. And your liver just gets slammed with this massive, uncontrolled flood of sugar. It gets overwhelmed, and it basically does the only thing it can do with all that excess. It starts a process called de novo lipogenesis. Fancy term, but it just means making new fat. And that, right there, is how fructose directly fuels fatty liver disease.
So, there you have it. Fructose floods the liver. The liver turns it into fat. That is the core of the problem. But this is where the story takes a sharp turn. It's time to introduce our very unexpected hero. Say hello to Inulin. Now, you've probably heard of this stuff. It's a really common prebiotic. That's a type of fiber that basically acts as food for the good bacteria in your gut. You find it naturally in all sorts of plants, things like chicory root, artichokes, onions, garlic. It's got a great reputation for being healthy. But this is where things get really, really weird.
Okay, look at this. On one side, you have fructose. It's a simple sugar, just one little molecule, a monomer. Easy to absorb, goes right to the liver. On the other side, we have inulin. And what is it? It's just a long, complex chain of those exact same fructose molecules. It's a polymer. This is the mind-bending puzzle at the heart of our story. Our hero is literally built from the villain. So how on earth can a fiber made of fructose protect us from fructose? And this is where the science just gets so cool. So a recent really groundbreaking study took mice and fed them a high fructose diet, basically gave them fatty liver disease on purpose. Then they started adding inulin to their diet, and what they found was just incredible. The inulin didn't just stop the damage from getting worse. No, get this. Even while the mice were still eating all that fructose, the inulin actually started to reverse the liver damage that was already there. Just amazing.
Okay, so how in the world is this metabolic magic trick even possible? Well, the secret isn't actually in the fiber itself. The real answer lies with the trillions of tiny allies that are living inside every single one of us.
You see, our own bodies can't actually digest inulin. Our enzymes they can't break down that complex chain of fructose, so its power has to be indirect.
And the secret? Well, it lies with your gut microbiome. When you eat inulin, you're not just feeding yourself, you're actually throwing a massive feast for the bacteria in your gut. And that, right there, is where this whole amazing protective mechanism kicks off. And here's another plot twist that kind of turns what we thought we knew about fiber on its head. We almost always talk about fiber doing its work way down in the large intestine, the colon. But this research, it pinpointed the key action happening way earlier, up in the small intestine. And that little detail turns out to be absolutely critical. And this chart just illustrates the effect perfectly. So the researchers tracked where all the fructose was going. On the standard high fructose diet, that first bar, you can see a ton of fructose spilling over past the small intestine and making it to the colon and liver. But now look at that second bar, the Inulin diet. The amount of fructose that gets that far, it's practically gone. It was being stopped in its tracks.
So, what exactly is going on here? Well, by feeding the microbes inulin day after day, the researchers were basically training them. It's like a boot camp for bacteria. These microbes in the small intestine adapted and became super efficient at gobbling up fructose. They essentially formed a defensive line, acting like gatekeepers that just ate up all the harmful simple fructose before it could ever spill over and wreak havoc on the liver. The study even singled out one of the star players in this microbial army, a bacterium called Bacteroides acidifaciens.
But wait, that's not even the whole story. Intercepting the fructose was just the first line of defense. Because for the little bit that did manage to sneak past those microbial gatekeepers, well, something just as incredible was happening inside the liver itself.
Yeah, the microbiome was a great goalie, but it wasn't perfect. A tiny bit of fructose still got through. So what happened then?
The liver completely rewired itself. It's amazing. On the normal high fructose diet, the liver's response is, okay, make more fat. But with the inulin in the diet, that fat production just plummets. Instead of making fat, the liver flipped a switch and started using that little bit of fructose for something completely different. It started making powerful antioxidants.
Specifically, it was cranking out a molecule called glutathione, or GSH. And glutathione is a big deal. It's often called the body's master antioxidant. Its whole job is to go around and neutralize damaging molecules and protect our cells from oxidative stress, which is exactly the kind of damage that a high fructose diet causes in the first place. Think about that. The liver was literally taking the enemy's bullets and melting them down to forge its own suit of armor. It's incredible.
So, let's bring this all together. What is the big takeaway from this amazing metabolic detective story? The really crucial point here is that by feeding your microbiome the right fuel, like inulin, you can set up this powerful two-layer defense system. Layer 1 is your gut microbes acting as bouncers at the door, consuming the bad stuff before it can even get to your vital organs. And Layer 2 is your liver, which rewires itself to turn any little bit that sneaks past from a threat into a protective shield. It's a 1-2 punch for your health.
You know, the researchers who did this study summed it up perfectly. They said this isn't really just about fructose and inulin. This research paves the way for a whole new way of thinking about our health, where we can actively empower our microbiome to act as a living shield against some of the more toxic parts of our modern diet.
And that really leaves us with a powerful final thought, doesn't it? The next time you sit down to eat, maybe ask yourself this question. Are you just feeding yourself? Or are you also feeding the trillion allies inside of you, the ones that are working around the clock to protect you?